This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land.
We're all behind our baseball.
And welcome in, folks, to another edition of Open Mic Night. I am your host, Noah Tsaluki. And on today's episode, as you've guessed it from the intro, it is all about Tiger baseball finally back after the lockout that ruined a lot of spring training. I'm going to break down sort of the roster of this Tiger team, a new acquisition, a huge acquisition that was traded for a couple of days ago, and I think a player that can really, really boost this lineup, and sort of the expectations for this season as well. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend out there. As you could tell, my voice is a little bit down because I was a little bit under the weather over the weekend. I'd worked a lot of sporting events here at John Carroll in Cleveland, and I think it was just a little bit run down a little bit after 10, 11-hour days for the last couple days. So I just basically rested all day Sunday and got my voice back a little bit, and keeping up with Detroit sports. As always, national championship happened on Monday. What a game that was. I believe North Carolina was down by 18 points at one point in that game, or something along those lines. I think it was 18. North Carolina was up, and then Kansas came back and won 72-69 in the greatest comeback in NCAA tournament championship history. How about that? Kansas. And it would have been just such a miracle ending for North Carolina, especially after beating Duke and, ending Coach K's for his first loss of his career against North Carolina, his last loss against North Carolina in the Final Four, are one of his biggest games of his career, in my opinion. So it would have just been nice for North Carolina to just put the cherry on top after that point. By the way, in terms of brackets, I don't think anyone had North Carolina. There was only a handful of people, I think, in the entire nation on ESPN or something that actually picked North Carolina to win that game. So it's really, really good. Really good season for them. Really good season for St. Peter's as well in the Elite Eight. I know we didn't really talk a lot about basketball last week just because of all the news with the Lions. Really wanted to focus on that and then save the Tigers, of course, for this week. Opening day on Friday against the Chicago White Sox. And, I always like listening to that Ernie Harwell Bible passage that he would always start off each season with, about how the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. But, it's just sometimes the weather, doesn't cooperate as much, and it doesn't feel like springtime for opening day. And I think it's supposed to be a little bit colder outside for Friday in Detroit. Wish I could go to the game. I wish I could take the day off on Friday and go up, because I've been to a couple opening days before, but unfortunately I just cannot make it. But I'll definitely be watching the all-star crew, in quotation marks, of Kirk Gibson and Dan Petrie and Matt Shepard and all those guys. So in my opinion, they're not the best, but that's a story for another day. But I'm really, when I was down in Florida, I recapped a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. When I was down in Florida, we were down at Lakeland, Joker Marchant Stadium, or we were actually at Henley Field, not too far from Joker Marchant Stadium, and our John Carroll baseball team was supposed to play Albion there. And as we're waiting for the bus to arrive after basically the grounds crew says we're not playing this game, we start hearing reports that the strike's over, the lockout's over, and baseball is back. And I'll tell you what, 18 to 22-year-olds, they were so happy when they found out on their phones or whatever, however they got their news, that the lockout and all that was over, because baseball is finally back. And I was never a supporter of this lockout at all. And I just think it just stoppages like this, I think, ruin the sport. Because when you think about the young fans that they're trying to build and how baseball is just under a lot of scrutiny with how long games are and they're trying to change different rules with pitch clocks, trying to make the game faster, all those improvements they're trying to make, putting a runner on second base to start extra innings, just all this stuff that they're trying to tinker with. And then all of a sudden you add more pressure onto it by having this lockout, this meaningless lockout, in my opinion. I think it ruins the game, and I think people's attention just draws away from it. And regardless, we're back, and they're going to play a full 162 games. Might go a little bit later this year, the regular season than normal. But the most important thing is that baseball is finally back, and Tiger baseball is too. So now the attention shifts to the roster, and the Tigers. I want to get into the roster in a minute, but I want to talk about this move the Tigers made on Monday. And, there I am sitting at my fantasy baseball draft. I'm in 2 leagues this year. And I am in my draft, and we're about maybe at the 7th, 8th round. And I'm sitting there, and I'm debating between picking Spencer Torkelson and Austin Meadows. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm reading the report of Austin Meadows. He was a little bit hurt with his hamstring or something like that, minor injury. And then I thought, well, you know what? I just feel like Torkelson has a little bit more upside just because he's, he could be a boom type player this year. Plus, I already had a lot of depth at the bat with batters at that point where I was okay with kind of taking a risk with him because, you never know. But I feel like he could be more boom than bust. So I just said, I'm going to go with Torkelson. Literally, like minutes later, my friend texts me and says, the Tigers got Austin Meadows in a trade. And I'm thinking, I literally just was debating with myself about taking Austin Meadows or not in this draft. And it's actually funny because in my second league, because the drafts were going on at the same time, my second league, I actually picked Austin Meadows. So I got Austin Meadows on one team and Spencer Torkelson on the other. But in the first league, I was debating between Meadows and Torkelson. Never in that moment did I ever think that they were going to be teammates. But when I heard the news, I thought it was a little bit of a run-on from that April Fool's Day last week. I thought my buddy was joking with me because I had seen all these April Fool's jokes and like Steve Yzerman is leaving the Red Wings. I saw that and I read the article. I'm like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And all of a sudden, because they fired Al Sabatka, a long time, and they terminated his contract, the long time Zamboni driver for the Wings. And they said, he was upset at that, and I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. And then sure enough, it was April Fool, so I thought it was a run-on from April Fool's last week, honestly. I didn't believe it. And the reason I didn't believe it is because when was the last time the Tigers made any sort of significant trade to get someone that is an immediate help to their roster? When was the last time? 2014? 2015, 16, somewhere in there. In my opinion, this is back to the old days. This is back to the old Tigers making trades, buying, not selling. And I think this move by Al Avila, definitely so far, and I know he hasn't played a game yet for us, but so far, this has been one of his best moves he's made as general manager, in my opinion. Because this is an automatic fix to a big glaring problem for the Tigers. And that is power. Tigers used to have a lot of power. You think of Miguel Cabrera, vintage Miggy, Triple Crown Miggy, Prince Fielder, power. Victor Martinez, power. Those other guys could hit too on those teams. Even Justin Upton for a little bit. They've lacked power since the rebuild started. And they're immediately getting power with Austin Meadows. I wonder, too, if Parker Meadows being in the farm system, his brother, younger brother for the Tigers, I wonder if that had anything to do with him coming over to Detroit. Interesting. Remember, the Pirates traded away. I believe they traded for Chris Archer, the old Tampa Bay Rays pitcher. So the Rays traded to Pittsburgh, Chris Archer. The Pirates gave them back Austin Meadows, who was a prospect at the time. And clearly, the Rays won that trade. They trade Austin Meadows to the Tigers for Isaac Paredes and a compensatory pick. And a compensatory pick in next year's draft. Compensatory picks are a little different in the MLB because in the NFL, when compensatory picks is they usually give in like the 4th, 5th, 6th round to teams that maybe lost a guy in free agency and the league awards them. So it's not like in the NFL. It's not like every single round is 1 through 32. Lions start at the top, because they're the number 2, and then Rams at the. It's not like that. The league will give different teams compensatory picks based on lost free agents and all that. That's not how it works. It's a little bit similar in the MLB, but not exactly, where the compensatory picks are more earlier, and they, like the second, it's everything kind of past the first round. So it's a valuable pick for sure. It's basically like saying we're getting like a second or third round pick. And I think, look, I love I think it boasts immediate need. I think it really helps the Tigers. I will say, though, the one thing I'm concerned with is, and I was texting our good friend Matt Derry about this, and I agree, the Rays don't really lose that many trades. And I agree, because I just mentioned the whole Chris Archer and Austin Meadows trade when he was traded originally to the Rays. And there's been other trades that they've made. I just wonder why the return was only Isaac Paredes. And we know Isaac Paredes is a longtime prospect in this system since 2017 when he was traded from the Cubs. Can't remember if that was for Justin Wilson or if it was in the Alex Avila trade. I think it was the Alex Avila trade, but I could be wrong. I knew he was from the Cubs, but it was one of those trades. But regardless, he's been in the system since he was traded. Has not really panned out. He's seen a little bit of time at the MLB level, but just hasn't really been that guy that I think that contributor that I think the Tigers thought he would be. And so giving him to the Rays, but the Rays given an all-star player back, it's not like they traded, say maybe even like Candelario or Victor Reyes or like one of those. It's not even like they gave away basically a starter. They gave away, a prospect for him. And I wonder if maybe the Rays just didn't want to pay him eventually, because the Rays are one of the cheapest organizations in all of baseball. So maybe they just wanted to get him off the books. I don't know. But regardless, I think it shows the Tigers are willing to spend a little bit more now. They're more buyers. They're more in it to win it. I think he's going to solve a big power issue that the Tigers have desperately needed. And, they're going to hopefully get more power with Spencer Torkelson. Now, I want to warn you about Torkelson. Yes, I picked him in fantasy baseball. I did, because I think he has some boom potential this year. However, I don't think people should expect Torkelson to be hitting like, 300, batting like 40 home runs, 100 RBI. I don't think you can expect that out of Torkelson right now. Yes, he's had a great spring. He's only struck out, I think, 4 times in all of spring training or something like that. But you have to give him time to adjust to Major League pitching. Now, if this guy starts out in a slump, don't be calling for his head. Don't be saying that this guy is a bust. You got to give these guys some time. Torkelson, he's young. He's younger. But, 22, 23 years old. Give him a little bit of time to adjust to Major League pitching because I think this guy can be very good. I think he's another guy that has some raw power, some strength, some natural power at the plate. He can play in the Tigers. When they've been good, they've had home run hitters. Torkelson is a home run hitter. And I think starting him at first base this season, I think is going to be really big. Really big. And, with Miguel Cabrera there, mentoring him, Miggy will be the DH. I think that's going to be really good for the development of Torkelson as well. Unfortunately, a big loss, though, was Riley Green. He took a hard foul ball off of his foot in a spring training game a couple weeks ago, and he's going to be out for a little bit. That it did not look good, and that's not good for the Tigers because Riley Green was supposed to be patrolling center field, and they actually sent Daz Cameron down to the minors to start the year, and they're going to have Riley Green. They were going to have Riley Green patrol center field and get those reps in. I mean, this guy was I believe the 5th overall pick in the 2019 draft. See if he could flash his glove because he's been working the last couple years in the organization, switching over to center field because I believe he in high school, he was starting off at like left field, right field, but eventually they were grooming him to be the center fielder. And he's got some natural power as well at the plate, and he's fast. So he was another guy. Him and Torkelson were the big prospects coming up that the Tigers actually drafted. Didn't get in trades or anything, but an unfortunate loss for the Tigers, at least for the time being. Really, really wish we could have seen Riley Green. I would have loved to see what he could have done, at least to start the season. Some of the other guys in the starting 9 in the field. Tucker Barnhart, he was the catcher that the Tigers got from the Reds. He got from the Reds. I think he's a solid defensive catcher. At times he can hit well with his bat. I mean, you just don't expect a ton, from catchers all the time. I mean, but last year, 2021 with the Reds, 7 home runs, 48 RBIs. I mean, that's 247. I mean, for a catcher, that's not terrible. Career 248 hitter, 51 career home runs. And then, of course, Eric Haas, who had a magical season last year. I don't know if Haas can back it up. I think Haas could be a solid backup catcher, but last year he was basically starting. But that's obviously not the ideal situation. I don't think the Tigers want. So I think Haas in a backup catcher role could be good because he definitely can flash the bat at times, as he did last season with over 20 home runs. Jonathan Scope, he's always been a solid player in a uniform with his time in Detroit. Really, really batted well last season as well. Looks like he hit. You have 278. I can just see that. 22 home runs, 84 RBIs. I mean, that's very good production. 156 games too. Basically playing in almost every game is really, really good to see from Scope. I think he could be another major contributor this season. Second base. So second base was going to be open, I think, because the Tigers had signed Javier Baez, the big, shortstop from the originally with the Cubs. And to see if maybe they can move him to second and make a move at shortstop. I thought the Tigers were eventually going to try to go for Carlos Correa, but he signed a big lucrative contract with the Minnesota Twins. But I think it's going to be one of the Castros. Willie Castro, Harold Castro. I've never really been a fan of them. I mean, I think they're people that can maybe hold down the ship for a little bit, but I don't think they're guys that the Tigers should necessarily build around. I think they're just kind of placeholders Willie and Harold Castro. No relation, by the way. Third base, Candelario. Great patience at the plate. He's been that ever since he became a Tiger. He was actually, just like Paredes, in one of those Cubs trades as well. He was a prospect at the time. And he's probably, so far, of all the trades the Tigers have made in this, quote, rebuild, he's probably been the best. He's probably been the best player that they've gotten. I mean, because he became a starter basically right away. Wow, he's 28 already. I didn't realize he was that old. I thought maybe he was 25, 26. Wow, Candyman is 28. Did not realize that. 149 games last year. 16 home runs, 67 RBIs, 271. I mean, that's not terrible. Now, I don't think it's tough with Candy because there's sometimes where I think Candyman could be like that guy that the Tigers could move, could rebuild with, and he could be a guy for the future for them. But, at the same time, sometimes I think there's just better third basemen out there. It's going to be interesting to see what the Tigers do with Candyman in the next couple of years, especially. Javi Baez, already talked about him a little bit. The big free agent acquisition. And last year, he was with the Cubs and with the New York Mets. He was a star back in 2016 when they won the World Series. I mean, 2018, this guy had 34 home runs, 111 RBIs. Just a couple years ago. In terms of numbers, it seems like he's on the decline just a little bit, but I mean, hit 299 in his 47 games with the Mets in the second half of the season. So I think he's got a flashy glove as well. So, I think the Tigers are really, really banking on him that, he really finds his groove this season. And I think they're going to stick Meadows in left field to begin the season. And it's going to be interesting about Akil Baddoo as well. What's going to happen with him, especially since Riley Green is hurt? Are they going to put Baddoo in center field to start the season? Are they going to put Victor Reyes, Derek Hill? Derek Hill's another guy. He's been waiting a long, long time in the minors to get his shot at the big leagues. And he's had a decent spring. He had a decent minor league campaign last year. Let's see what Derek Hill can do at the major league level finally. And with Victor Reyes and company. And, of course, Robbie Grossman in right field, a solid veteran that I think could really help the Tigers in some of the younger hitters this season as well. 23 home runs. How about that? A career high last season in RBIs and home runs. 239 he hit, but the 23 in 156 games is pretty good to see as well. And, of course, Miguel Cabrera. What do we expect from Miguel Cabrera this year? This is another topic of interest, I think. And I think what we can expect is hopefully a healthy Miggy. If we get a healthy Miggy, the healthy Miggy will hit about maybe 270 with maybe 15, maybe 20 home runs, 70 RBIs maybe. That's what I'm expecting of Miggy, if he stays healthy. If Miggy doesn't stay healthy, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think he's a guy that could still contribute in a positive way for the Tigers this season. He said he's going to play this season and next season, and that'll be it. He's going to ride out his contract, and that'll be it. So and obviously Miggy's always a good guy to have in the clubhouse. He's a guy with all that experience and sharing his knowledge with the younger players. That stuff's invaluable for sure. All right, before we end, I just want to quickly go through some of the starting rotation. I think the big acquisition pitching-wise this past season was Eduardo Rodriguez. In terms of fantasy baseball, he's always been a sneaky star for me every year. Every time I draft, he never lets me down in fantasy. He was with the Red Sox for a while. And I think he's the guy that they're really going to rely on. I mean, he's going to be their ace to begin this season. And I think he's a lefty. The Tigers, they've lacked lefties in their rotation. I mean, he's the only listed Skubal. Him and Skubal really are the only two listed lefties in the starting lineup, in the rotation. I think, honestly, he's going to be their catalyst this year. I think he's going to be a very sneaky player. I mean, this guy I think he could easily have like a 3.5 ERA. And he could lead the team in strikeouts. And I really think he's poised to have a breakout season at 29 years old. Actually turning 29 on April 7th, as we record here on April 6th. And then Casey Mize is back. I think the number one overall pick from a couple seasons ago. I think Casey Mize, and same with Tarek Skubal. I think these guys, the more innings they pitch, the more mature their arms are going to get, and I just think they're going to ascend, and I think they're just going to get better and better each season. So I think overall, and you look at Matt Manning as well. I know he struggled last season as a rookie, but you look at these guys, Spencer Turnbull. He had the no-hitter last year. Even Willie Peralta, remember him? He had a good year last year. Kind of a big surprise from Kansas City. Then Michael Pineda, who they got, I believe from the Twins, they're going to start him off in the minors. Big 6'7", 280. I think this rotation, look, I'm not saying this rotation is some all-star crew. I'm not saying like all those, this isn't the rotation from, almost 10 years ago now where they all had Cy Young winners. I'm not saying that. But we saw last year how the pitching got better. You could see it. You could see that the guys were developing, using their pitches, striking guys out. You could tell last season was getting better. And I think this season it gets even better than last year. Just the more experience these guys get. And I really think that the pitching is going to ride this team this year. How well these guys pitch is going to determine the fate of this 2022 Tigers team. And obviously, great manager in A.J. Hinch, regardless of the whole Astros scandal from a couple years ago. I think that's over with. He's still a great manager, regardless of all that stuff, the asterisks stuff and all that. But I really think my expectations for this season, I said 75 games last year. I predicted the Tigers would win 75. They won 78. I'm not saying the Tigers are going to make the playoffs this year. I'm not. But call me crazy, but am I crazy for thinking maybe 80 to 85 wins this year? I don't think that's like a bad prediction, especially after I predicted 75 last year. Tigers win 78. I think they can be 500 or a little bit better than 500. Especially if Torkelson booms. Especially if this pitching rotation can, put together solid innings, win some games for this team. A healthy Miggy, see what he can contribute. Why not? Sky's the limit for this team. 80 to 85 wins. That's my prediction for this season. I think the Tigers could very, very well do this. I'm really excited for this season. This is the most excited I've been for a Tigers team probably since I was in high school, honestly. Probably since 2016, when they literally came a game away from making the playoffs. Maybe the Tigers can even, if they get lucky, they can even push for a wild card spot, I think. And I know that because the other thing, too, that they have going for them is that the Central Division is overall kind of weak. You have the strong pitching from Cleveland. You have the White Sox, who are probably going to win the division. But Kansas City, Minnesota, I don't see anything with those teams. I think the Tigers are poised for 80, 85 wins. I hope they get more. but I think 500 or a little bit better than 500 is fair enough. That's for sure. Opening day on Friday at Comerica Park. I'm sure downtown will be bustling with people. I'll definitely be watching here in Cleveland. I'm not watching the Tribe or any opening day with them. I am just watching Tigers. I think last year they played Cleveland. That was the game that Miggy had the home run in the snow, which was really, really cool. But downtown should be hopping again because, last year there was a lot of restrictions on things and couldn't do as many things as you used to. Now it's kind of everything, quote, back to normal with all that. So, it's gonna be really exciting, and it's just gonna feel like opening day again. I remember back in the day missing school or leaving school early to go and to a couple opening days, and I love that. Just leaving school early to go opening day. And, this Tigers team I think they're going to be exciting this year. And like I said, 80, 85 wins. I think that's fair enough. That's for sure. Masters week as well this week. If anyone's a golf fan, I'm not going to do a whole deep dive onto it, but actually one of the golfers in the Masters this year is from Michigan, James Pyatt. He went to Catholic Central. The big rival of U of D, Jesuit, my high school. He actually is competing as an amateur. He won the U.S. Amateur Championship last year, 2021, so he gets a spot in the 2022 Masters. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I really hope he does well. But a big shout-out to James Pyatt from Catholic Central, the first Michigan-born player to ever win the U.S. Amateur. And that's been around for 121 years now. So, and Tiger Woods looks like he's going to play in the Masters as well. So that's going to be exciting. There's a lot of very good golfers in this Masters this year, and I think it's kind of anyone's tournament. Well, just like every other golf tournament is, but still, it's hard to pick a winner in golf. Just because you could win a tournament one week and then miss the cut the other week. So, there's a lot of great sports this weekend. Baseball starting up around the league, fantasy baseball. So as soon as March Madness ends, we get Masters golf and baseball finally back. And the draft coming up this month now finally. And we'll be talking a lot more about the draft and all that in the next coming weeks. That is for sure. Make sure to tune into all the other great podcasts on the podcast network. Doc and Jock, always a great listen. The Wrestling Podcast, the Michigan Podcast. He's taking a couple weeks off, but I'm sure you'll have an episode back pretty soon. He also has a show called Bigger 10 that airs on YouTube. Go check that one out. That's a really good one as well. And also the Fan Report, Talking Pistons. They are just about to wrap up their season. We'll see if Cade Cunningham wins the Rookie of the Year. And have to wait to the lottery to see who they get, what pick they get in the draft as well. Thanks again, folks, for tuning in. Go Tigers. And make sure to tune in next week, only on Open Mic Night.